There is a difference between being liked and being needed. Liked is fragile. Liked depends on your mood, your appearance, how entertaining you were at the last gathering, whether you said the right thing at the right moment. Liked can evaporate overnight with no explanation and no warning. Needed is something else entirely. Needed means that when you are not in the room, your absence is felt. Needed means that people reach for you automatically when something important happens, when they have a problem, when they need an opinion, when they need someone who actually understands what they are dealing with. Needed means that removing yourself from someone's life would cost them something real. Machiavelli spent his entire intellectual life studying this distinction, not in the language of self-help, not with affirmations or social scripts or manipulation tactics. He studied it as a political scientist studies power, with cold, unflinching precision. He understood that the most secure position any person can occupy in any environment is the position of the indispensable one, the person without whom the system functions less well, the person whose value is not performed but structural, built into how things work, how decisions get made, how problems get solved. Today, we are going to build that position using Machiavelli's framework. Starting now, the fundamental Machiavellian insight on need. Machiavelli makes a distinction early in The Prince that most readers overlook because they are too focused on the famous lines about lions and foxes. He distinguishes between what he calls love and necessity as foundations for loyalty. Love, he writes, is held together by chain of obligation which, because men are wretched creatures, is broken on every occasion in which their own interests are concerned. Necessity, on the other hand, is a chain that holds because breaking it costs the person more than maintaining it. This is the entire framework in 2 sentences. You do not want people to stay in your life because they feel warmly toward you. Warmth fluctuates. Warmth depends on 100 variables you cannot control: their mood, their circumstances, what someone else said about you, whether they are going through something difficult that makes them pull away from everyone. You want people to stay because leaving you would create a problem they do not know how to solve without you. This is not manipulation. Manipulation is about creating false impressions. What Machiavelli is describing is the cultivation of genuine structural value, becoming so embedded in how someone navigates their world that your absence would genuinely diminish their capacity to function at the level they have become accustomed to. The question is not, how do you make people like you more? The question is, how do you make yourself load-bearing in the architecture of their lives? Everything that follows is an answer to that question. Become the person who solves the problem. No one else will touch. Machiavelli observed that every court, every organization, every social circle has the same invisible structure. There are problems that are visible, comfortable, and well-attended. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone is willing to engage. And then there are problems that are uncomfortable, complex, or socially costly to touch. And almost everyone steps back from those. He noted that the advisor who was willing to engage with the second category of problems, the ones everyone else avoided, occupied a position of power that no amount of social charm could replicate. Because the prince could find 100 people to tell him what he wanted to hear. He could find almost no one willing to tell him what he needed to hear and engage seriously with the problems that were genuinely difficult. Apply this to your own environment. In every workplace, every family, every friendship group, every social circle, there are the problems people talk about and the problems people quietly carry alone because they do not know who is safe to bring them to. There are the financial decisions that feel too embarrassing to discuss openly. The relationship conflicts that feel too complicated to explain to someone who might judge. The career questions that feel too vulnerable to ask in front of people whose respect you are trying to maintain. The creative and intellectual problems that feel too exposed to share with people who might not understand. The person who positions themselves as genuinely safe and genuinely capable for those second category problems does not need to compete for relevance. They become the person people think of in private, in the moments that actually matter. How do you become that person? Machiavelli's answer is precision. Not availability, precision. There is a crucial difference. Being available means you are willing to engage with everything, which actually dilutes your value because it signals that you have no particular expertise, just general willingness. Precision means you have a specific, demonstrable depth in areas that are genuinely difficult, and you deploy that depth quietly, without fanfare, in the moments when it is actually needed. Stop trying to have an opinion on everything. Develop an extraordinary understanding of a few things that matter and are hard. Become the person whose input on those specific things people seek out because they know it will be different from what they hear everywhere else. The person who is consulted on the hard problems cannot be easily replaced. The person who has something to say about everything is replaceable by the next person who also has something to say about everything. Choose depth over breadth, precision over presence, and watch how slowly, quietly, without any announcement, people begin to route their most important questions toward you. The information architecture. Machiavelli was obsessed with information. He understood that in any court, any organization, any human system, the person who controls the flow of relevant information controls everything that depends on that information, which is ultimately everything. He wrote about this with a specific insight that is immediately applicable to your daily life. He observed that the most powerful position in any information environment is not the person who knows the most. It is the person who knows what is relevant to each specific person they are dealing with, and who delivers that information in the way that person can actually use it. This is not the same thing as knowing everything. This is a different skill entirely. The skill of understanding what each person in your world actually needs, filtering the information available to you through that understanding, and becoming the source they associate with clarity rather than noise. Most people in your life are drowning in information. They have access to everything and clarity about nothing. The person who can sit down with them and say, "Here is what actually matters for your specific situation. Here is what you can ignore. Here is the one thing you need to understand before you make this decision." That person becomes indispensable almost immediately. Start paying attention to what each person in your environment is actually trying to solve. Not what they say they are interested in. What they are actually trying to figure out, decide, build, or survive. And then become the person who filters the world's information through that specific lens for them. A friend who is navigating a difficult career decision does not need your general thoughts on the job market. They need you to have paid enough attention to their specific situation, their specific strengths, their specific fears, that your input is calibrated to them and not to a generic version of their problem. When you do that, when you demonstrate that level of specific attention, you become someone they cannot get elsewhere. Because getting that quality of input elsewhere would require someone else to have paid the same level of attention to them. And almost no one does. Information becomes power not when you hoard it, but when you become the person who makes it navigable for the people who matter to you. Become the translator between the world's complexity and the specific human in front of you. That is a position no one can easily replace. Machiavelli's doctrine of selective scarcity. Here is where Machiavelli diverges most sharply from modern social wisdom, and where he is most correct. Modern social advice tells you to be present, to respond quickly, to show up consistently, to be accessible, to make people feel that you are always available to them. Machiavelli would consider this catastrophic. He writes extensively about what he calls the danger of contempt, the specific dynamic that occurs when a prince makes himself too accessible, too easily obtained, too lacking in the quality of difficulty that makes people value what they have access to. He observed that human psychology follows a consistent pattern when it comes to value and access. What is easy to obtain is assumed to be worth what it cost to obtain it, which is nothing. What requires effort, patience, or selectivity to access is assumed at a psychological level to be worth the effort it required. This is not a manipulation tactic. It is a description of how value is perceived by the human brain. The brain does not assess worth objectively. It assesses worth relative to the effort required to obtain something. Alter the effort and you alter the perceived worth automatically without anyone choosing to change their valuation. The practical application of this principle is what Machiavelli would call selective scarcity. Not absence, not coldness, not playing games. Selective scarcity means that you are not available for everything. You are specifically, deliberately, fully available for the things that matter, and that your full availability in those moments is made more valuable by your non-availability in others. Think about the people in your life whose input you value most highly. Almost none of them are the most responsive people you know. The mentor whose opinion genuinely matters to you is probably someone you do not contact casually, whose time feels like something you are conscious of spending rather than something you assume you have unlimited access to. The friend whose judgment you trust most is probably not the one who responds to every message within 30 seconds and is available for every trivial interaction. Their value to you is partly a function of the selectivity with which they engage. That selectivity is not accidental. It is, in Machiavelli's terms, the natural consequence of a person who has genuine priorities and genuine depth. And that depth communicates itself partly through the fact that their attention is not universally distributed. You do not need to manufacture unavailability. You need to actually invest in things that make genuine demands on your time and attention, things that give you something real to be unavailable for. Build those things. Be genuinely engaged in the development of yourself, your work, your ideas. Let that genuine engagement create natural selectivity in your availability. The people who matter will feel the difference between someone who is artificially unavailable and someone who is genuinely occupied with something of substance. And the second type will always be valued more than the first. The memory principle. Machiavelli wrote something that appears in his private letters rather than in the prints, and it is one of the most practically powerful observations he ever made. He noted that the princes and leaders he had observed who maintained the deepest loyalty from their advisors and allies were almost universally people who remembered. They remembered what you told them about yourself. They remembered what you were working toward. They remembered the context of your life, your fears, your ambitions, your ongoing struggles, and they engaged with you from within that context rather than starting from zero every time they saw you. He contrasted this with leaders who engaged with people purely in terms of what those people were useful for in the current moment. Those leaders, he noted, had to constantly manage the loyalty of people who felt instrumentalized, used, and then set aside until they were needed again. The ones who remembered had a different experience. Their people stayed not primarily because they were compensated well or because they feared the consequences of leaving, but because being known, being genuinely held in someone's memory and attention, is one of the most powerful human needs there is, and it is one that most people are chronically starved of. Most people in your life feel, at some level, that they are half visible, that they are known in broad strokes, but not in the detail that would make them feel truly seen. That the people around them engage with a general version of them rather than the specific, complex, evolving person they actually are. Become the exception to that experience for the people who matter to you. When someone tells you something important about what they are going through, hold it, remember it, bring it back the next time you see them, not as a performance of remembering, but as a genuine continuation of a conversation that for most people would have simply ended and been forgotten. When someone shares a goal with you, track it, follow up, ask how it went. Let them feel that their narrative is being held by someone outside themselves, that someone is paying attention to the arc of their life and not just the episode that is immediately in front of you both. This costs you nothing except attention, and the return is extraordinary. Because the person who remembers you, who holds the thread of your story, who engages with you as a continuous and specific human being rather than as whoever you happen to be presenting today, that person becomes someone you cannot easily leave. Not because they demand anything, but because being known is something you do not walk away from when you have found it. Machiavelli understood that the most durable loyalty is not purchased with favors or maintained through fear. It is created by making people feel genuinely seen. And genuine seeing requires memory. It requires the discipline to hold the details of another person's life in your attention long enough that your engagement with them carries the weight of real knowing. Develop that discipline. It will make you irreplaceable in ways that nothing else can replicate. The doctrine of useful absence. Machiavelli identified a counterintuitive principle that he observed in the most effective political relationships he studied. He called it, in essence, the principle of felt value. The idea that a person's true value to those around them is often most clearly perceived not in their presence, but in their absence. He noted that advisors and allies who were constantly present were often taken for granted, their contributions absorbed into the background of daily functioning without being consciously attributed to them. The ones who were present selectively, who came and went, whose involvement in a situation had a beginning and an end. Those were the ones whose contributions were consciously noticed and consciously valued. This is a principle you can apply immediately. Stop being the constant background presence in every situation you are part of. Be the person who enters, contributes something specific and significant, and then steps back. Let the contribution sit without you hovering over it. Let people experience the difference between the situation with your input in it and the situation without it. When you help someone solve a problem, do not stay attached to the solution. Give it completely and then step back. The help that is given and released, that does not come with the giver continuously checking whether it was appreciated, continuously asking for acknowledgement, is the help that is felt most deeply, because it asks for nothing, and that absence of demand makes it feel like something genuinely given rather than something performed. This also applies to social presence. The person who attends every gathering, participates in every group conversation, responds to every thread, that person becomes furniture. Noticed only by their absence, not by their presence, because their presence has become assumed. The person who is present selectively, who comes to the gathering they genuinely want to attend and is fully present there, who contributes to the conversations that genuinely engage them and is silent in the ones that do not, that person is felt. Their presence has texture because it is not constant. Their contributions register because they are not continuous noise. Strategic absence is not about withholding. It is about allowing your value to be perceived by creating the contrast conditions under which it becomes visible. You cannot see a light that never turns off. The switch is part of the meaning. Becoming the connector of worlds. One of the most sophisticated power strategies Machiavelli observed among the people who maintained influence across multiple courts and factions was what he described as the ability to move freely between worlds that did not otherwise communicate with each other. He noted that the person who had genuine relationships and credibility in multiple separate circles, whose social world was not a single cluster of similar people, but a network that crossed multiple different communities, occupied a position of structural power that was almost impossible to replicate or threaten. This is because such a person becomes the bridge. They become the one who knows someone in the world you need access to. They become the person who can facilitate the connection between the thing you have and the thing someone else needs, when neither of you would have found the other without them. They become, in the language of network theory, the broker, and brokers collect value at every transaction without needing to be the principal in any of them. In practical terms, this means deliberately building relationships across different worlds rather than deepening exclusively within the one you already inhabit. Most people socialize within their own category. Professionals network with professionals in the same industry. Young people socialize with other young people. People with a specific interest congregate exclusively with others who share that interest. This is natural. It is also, in Machiavelli's terms, a profound strategic limitation, because it means you are one of many within your world, rather than the rare person who moves between worlds. Go to the events outside your immediate circle. Invest in relationships with people whose lives are organized around fundamentally different work, different communities, different problems than your own. Develop genuine curiosity about how different worlds operate, not as a networking strategy, not with an agenda, but with actual interest in the diversity of human experience. The returns on this investment are not immediate, but over time, you become the person who can say, I know exactly who you need to talk to. And that ability, deployed in the right moment for the right person, creates a bond of gratitude and reliance that is extremely difficult to break, because that connection was uniquely yours to provide. No one else in that person's world could have made it. Be the bridge between worlds that do not otherwise intersect, and you will never have to worry about your relevance in any of them. The discipline of knowing what not to give. Here is the principle that separates Machiavellian thinking from most advice you will encounter, and it is the one that most people find the most difficult to implement. Machiavelli writes that the prince who gives everything at once leaves himself nothing to give, and the prince who has nothing to give has nothing to hold. Generosity is not a strategy when it is undifferentiated and unlimited. Indiscriminate giving, giving your time, your expertise, your energy, your insight to everyone who asks for any of it at any time, does not create indispensability. It creates a different dynamic entirely, one where people come to expect your giving as a baseline rather than as something earned and therefore valued. The discipline of knowing what not to give is about maintaining the integrity of your value. It is about understanding that your most important resources, your genuine insight, your real attention, your deepest knowledge, are finite, and that the way you allocate them sends a powerful signal about how you are to be valued. Give your expertise freely to everyone, and it becomes background noise, just more information in an already overwhelming environment. Give your deepest expertise selectively, in the moments that genuinely call for it, to the people who have demonstrated they will actually use it, and it becomes something people feel the weight of receiving. Give your full attention to every interaction, and your full attention becomes worth nothing because it is available without condition. Give your full attention only in the moments you choose and to the people and situations that earn it, and your full attention becomes something people notice, value, and seek. This is not coldness. This is not withholding for psychological effect. This is the discipline of a person who understands that their most valuable resources are finite, and that allocating them thoughtfully is both self-respecting and, in the long run, genuinely more generous than spreading them thin across every demand. The best version of what you have to offer is only available when you have not spent it on everything and everyone. Protect it, allocate it intentionally, and the people who receive it in its full form will understand, even if they cannot articulate why, that they are receiving something that is not available to everyone. That understanding is the foundation of genuine indispensability. The Machiavellian mirror. Before we close, Machiavelli would insist on this. Everything in this framework only works if the value you are making people need is real. He was not teaching performance. He was not constructing an elaborate social theater in which the appearance of value substitutes for the substance of it. He was describing the mechanics by which genuine value is perceived, protected, and made structurally necessary to the people it serves. If you deploy selective scarcity without genuine depth, people will see through it within weeks. The unavailability of a person with nothing to offer is not mystique. It is irrelevance wearing a costume. If you perform the memory principle without actually caring about the people you are supposedly holding in your attention, they will feel the performance. People are extraordinarily sensitive to the difference between being genuinely known and being strategically engaged with. One feels like warmth. The other feels like being processed. If you position yourself as the solver of hard problems without actually developing the depth required to solve hard problems, without putting in the years of genuine learning, genuine experience, genuine failure, and recovery that produce real expertise, the positioning will collapse at the first serious test. And a collapsed position is worse than no position at all, because it adds the damage of exposed pretension to the original absence of substance. The foundation of Machiavelli's entire framework is this: be genuinely, substantially, specifically valuable, and then understand the mechanics by which that value is made visible and felt. The work comes first. The strategy serves the work, not the other way around. Invest in becoming someone who genuinely solves problems other people cannot solve. Genuinely develop the kind of attention and memory that makes people feel truly known. Genuinely build relationships across different worlds out of real curiosity. Genuinely allocate your best resources to the people and situations that deserve them. Do all of that, and the Machiavellian mechanics of indispensability will not be something you need to manage. They will be something that happens around you, naturally, as the inevitable consequence of being someone whose presence in the world makes things work better than they would without you. That is what Machiavelli was actually pointing toward, not the manipulation of appearances. The construction of a life and a self that has something real at the center of it, and the wisdom to understand how that something real becomes something others cannot afford to be without. He called it virtue, not virtue in the moral sense, virtue in the original sense, the quality of being genuinely capable, genuinely effective, genuinely powerful in the execution of what you choose to do. Develop your virtue. Make it specific. Make it deep. Make it real. And then watch how the world rearranges itself around the person who has it.